Alternate win conditions are always a ton of fun, and with this deck, with the Queen and Pack Tactics, we can gain a lot of lore without having any characters on the board. This is Burn, and this is one of my new favourite decks, and today I'm going to teach you how to play it. The main finisher for this deck, and the reason that it works so well, is because of the Queen, Disguised Peddler. This card reads, you can exert it to choose and discard any character card, and you gain lore equal to the discarded character's lore count, meaning that you can use cards for just a one-time effect to gain that much lore on the spot, which means we can use cards like the new Floodborn Flynn Rider, or Brave Little Tailor Mickey to gain 4 lore on the spot, and this gets crazier when you combo it with LeFou or Shield of Virtue to ready the Queen back up and do the same thing again for insane late game finishes, allowing you to gain 8 or even 12 lore in one turn. Another finisher that we have in this deck, which enables us to win without questing, is Pack Tactics. This card says we gain 1 lore for each damaged character opponents have in play, which means if we use really cheap units, like Flynn Rider and Minnie Mouse, then we can just put 1 damage onto our opponent's board, forcing them to react to our early game pressure, and then we have this in the back for later on in the game, since we're not going to be trading too much with this style of deck. Okay, so we've gone over the finishers of the deck, but how do we actually get there? What does our early game look like? Like I previously mentioned with the 1-drop Flynn Riders and Minnie Mouses, those are fine for just getting some early lore on the board and putting some damage on your opponent's characters, but it's not going to be enough. Thankfully with Rise of the Floodborn we got some new evasive units, mainly the Minnie Mouse Stylish Surfer. This is a 1-free that can quest for 2, it has free health so it survives quite a lot, and it can quest for 2. If you get this on turn 3, you're going to be able to get at least 4 quests out of this, which is quickly ramping up to lethal territory with the Queen combo later on. And then thankfully we can just kind of ramp out, and our 5-drops we have Ray. This again is just another really strong evasive unit which can quest for free, meaning that we can either just play it on turn 5, or we can just use it as discard for the Queen to just gain free lore on the spot. And then if all else fails, we can always go back to our old trusty Cusco. This card that has wards, so when you play it, it's likely going to get free quest as well, so it kind of has that burn effect just like the evasive cards, where they're just really annoying to clear the board before they get value. So we're going to be discarding a lot of cards and playing a lot of cards from our hand, so we're going to be using this Donald Duck, which allows us to draw a card. Sure, our opponent draws a card as well, but we just want to make sure our hand is full enough to have this combo towards the end of the game. So we've got this here just for the extra card draw to make sure we don't run out of gas. So this is the deck list that I've got for today. As you can see, it kind of just plays into the aggro playstyle that we've been playing for set 1, with the Flynn Rider to discard your opponent's hand, and the Cheshire Cat, which just basically trades itself whenever it's banished. So we're leaning into this really early aggression, and then going into super annoying units with evasives and the Queen, which means your opponent's going to have to choose what to get rid of with their removal, because if they get rid of the Queen, then they're not going to have any answers for the evasive units, and then if they get rid of the evasive units, then we just leave that massive threat of the Queen up for the whole game. Because of our curve, we shouldn't have any issue playing out our turn 1, 2 and 3 relatively comfortably, or racking up insane lore, and then from turn 4 and 5 we can start being a bit more tricky and either going wide or setting up for the combo really early. With this deck you can get the combo out as soon as turn 4 or 5 with the Queen, and then once your opponent removes all your stuff from the board, Pack Tactics just has such a huge threat that the opponent just won't know whether they want to clear your units because it damages them and sets them up for Pack Tactics, or if they want to leave it up. But if they leave it up, they're letting us get to our 20 lore a lot quicker. We also run 2 Dragonfires just to get around the super annoying units, so there are a couple of units that are going to be really annoying to deal with, such as like the Giant Fairy Tinkerbell, just because it's going to ping a lot of damage and clear your board out, so you can just Dragonfire that for instant value. And then we've also got Genie just for like a late game removal tool as well. This card also does have evasive, so it's still going to be really annoying for the opponent to get rid of. And it bounces back a card to your opponent's hand, which means if they play something big, you can just get rid of it. Or even if you just play it on turn 6, it buys you a lot of tempo. So as we can see, this is a really simple to play deck, and you're basically just going for aggro and then huge combos. And it's really consistent because the cards just work. The main issue is just drawing them at the right time, but because of the Donald Duck, we're allowed to draw so many cards that we shouldn't have an issue with this. So just as a basic starter, that's my deck list. Now I'm going to go over some cards that you could add in this spots, but I chose not to, and I'll explain why. So the first card that I was looking at was this Shift Minnie Mouse. Now the reason for playing this originally was because if you're playing against Steel, you're going to be playing against Captain Hook, which has 3 attack and 2 health, so it can attack into your 1-3s and survive, which is a massive problem. So I was thinking if you could play this on turn 2, then you have an evasive, just getting that extra 1 lore, you know, kind of the burn effect that we've been going for the whole deck. but it was a bit inconsistent, and overall you're only questing for 1, and it's kind of better just to go wide anyway from that point, so I cut it there, but you could definitely give this a go. The effect of also playing 2 actions to gain the extra lore could pop up, but it never did, especially not in this deck because we're not playing enough actions really, and the actions we are playing are more for later on in the game, and at that point you're probably not going to have the Minnie Mouse on the board anyway. The next card that feels like quite a good inclusion could be Ring the Bell. Because you're kind of setting up your opponent to have damaged units on the board, just choosing one as like a budget inkable Dragonfire could work really well, but I think Dragonfire is just a lot more reliable, and even though this card is inkable and Dragonfire isn't, I think Dragonfire is just a way better card. Plus, you don't have to meet that condition of having them be damaged, and if you're damaging your opponent's characters, that means you're not questing, which means you're kind of not playing the deck to its main strengths anyway, so I think Dragonfire is just better than this card, to be honest. And then the next card's Hypnotize. This card does draw you an extra card, which I've been speaking about a lot as card draws quite good, but I think the Donald Duck is just a little bit better because it gets you questing, and we don't really benefit much from the discard in this deck. We do have the Flynn Rider, but we don't have enough discard to really capitalize on it, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then on the topic of discard, I'm going to put Daisy Duck and Prince John together here. I think if Prince John was inkable, I probably would play this package, but because Prince John is uninkable, you already run so many uninkables, it's not really worth it, and then there'll just be too much going on with the deck. The Daisy Duck is a really good consideration. I think the card is really solid. I think just being able to quest and discard cards just on its own is a really solid effect. So probably one of the main cards I'd want to add if I were to like make a new iteration of this deck, but I definitely want to combo these two together if I were to put the Daisy Duck in, just because Prince John gives you so much value. So it might be worth checking these two out and seeing if you can kind of get a good middle ground of burn and discard aggro. And then for the final consideration, we got the Shift Cheshire Cat. It does have evasive, and it does do the same thing as the Ring the Bell, so it does clear the opponent's board, but I think it's just a bit too expensive to run in this deck. We're going to be nearing our win condition about the same time that you played it anyway, so you're either playing your main win condition or this, and it seems like you would want to just play your win condition rather than play this. So that's the reason I went for that. If there's any cards that you guys think that you would want to add, or if you've made a deck list based on this kind of deck concept, definitely leave it in the comments and I'll get around to it. But other than that, that's been Burn. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know how it goes in your testing if you do decide to try this deck out, and I'll see you in the next one.